Okay, hello and welcome everybody. Welcome to the second episode where we have already forgotten to record any B-roll for the episode. So I'm still not very good at this, it turns out. And hopefully I will improve in the future, but for now, this episode, I've had to reuse the intro from the first one. And guess what? It's just going to fade to black at the end. So enjoy that. I guess don't be surprised that I seem like a guy who doesn't know what I'm doing. Especially with that turn I just did. That was horrendous. But I fixed it up now. And I guess I should talk about what we're doing here. So I wanted to start laying out some of the roads for just a general idea of the road network for some of the city, even though we're not going to be building specifics right now. So I've done this big blob of area that'll be like our downtown, the central business district, the main area where the stadium is. That's like the leisure tourist, kind of like the picturesque Instagram place, but the actual where the all the offices and high density is will be in this back part. And I originally did that avenue that went through the leisure district there, which I'm just going to call it for now. I really need to get some names for these places. But I didn't want the traffic that's going through to the business district to be going through that area, because I wanted that to be a very nice low traffic area. I mean, I want the whole city to be quite low traffic, but especially that area. So I decided to just duplicate the interchange that I made, and we'll separate these off to two separate areas. So one can be the nice area, and one can be the more practical businessy area. I'm just going to put in this 4-lane road just to service the sporting area. Essentially, that's it's the only reason I'm putting this 4-lane road, where most of it's going to be like a 2-lane road around this area, is just because I imagine people be good for like taxis and Ubers to like park on the side and then drop people off. I'm also just putting a parking area here, even though I'm not trying to encourage people to drive, at least having a few easy to get to parking areas where they can then walk and bike and transit to other areas. I thought would be a good idea. So I'm just putting that there for just occasional use. Just here, I've just put off in the corner of the map, just putting down some services. In, I guess, the fiction of this world, I'm imagining much like, countries like Monaco, right? They just bring in their power and that from France. They don't do it all themselves. So just pretend that's not there. Maybe we'll move that in to the city at some point, but for now, just pretend it's not there. And, just pretend we bring it in from whatever country's on the side here. Just got some brushes here to put down some trees. I originally just used the vanilla game brush, but I wanted something which had a little bit more interesting pattern, so it didn't look just so uniform. I thought that looked a bit more boring. So I'm using these tendrils and putting in some, thick clusters of trees. I think that looks a bit better. I'm not sure exactly how realistic that is, but it looked a little bit better to me from the sky. So gonna stick with that. Got my little tree brush I've made from different trees. They're probably trees from all over the world from different climates, and they make no sense to be together, but whatever. I'm gonna stick with it. Looks kind of good. Just decided to put a roundabout around this big central building here, and I've found a really cool hotel, which you'll see in a second, which is this Wave Hotel. And I just saw it, I was like, that looks really cool. And it had a few different ones that were designed to line up next to each other, but I thought, hey, why don't we put it on this roundabout and have it as this surrounding the main building here. And then I sort of lined it up and I put in this avenue here specifically just so that when you're standing on this avenue, you can look down the avenue with the trees, and I'll put down some nice pedestrian paths in a minute, and you'll be able to see the 4 hotels surrounding this giant building in the middle. And I thought that looked pretty cool. I pretty much just made this weird little Y intersection just because I thought it looked good. But I do a bit more playing around with these roads and changing them out. Because, as I've said with every part of the city, I'm thinking, how can I reduce lanes? How can I make this a bit more pretty, a bit more picturesque, and, get people to rely on different means of transport to get to places. So I'll do this just all 2-lane with a tram and this nice trees on the side. That's I think that looks quite pretty. I'm just doing this little turnaround, but I get rid of that because that doesn't make too much sense in the future. And I am getting this path and just trying some different trees, which they put them far too dense in the middle. It doesn't quite line up properly. The paths here are a bit pinker than I would like. You can probably see that. If it was like a nicer color, that'd be good. But it's just so much easier to have the path that you can just put down, and it deals with just having the automatically puts a pedestrian path down there with the plants and the lights and that. So much easier just to plop it down. So I'm gonna just suck up the pink, and like it's a pretty color still, so it doesn't really matter too much. So this path here, which I changed this one to the pink one as well, so I have pink down both sides just to make it this just to really emphasize that this is a really gorgeous walking area. It's kind of inspired by those proposals and those concepts to revitalize and turn those like famous places like the Champs-Elysees into these beautiful walking paths with the trees and bikes. That's kind of what this was inspired by, having this small lane down the middle with strong public transport, and then having these pedestrian and bike paths down the side. It's a place that isn't just practical, it's a place you actually want to be. This is supposed to be the part of the city where tourists would come and they want to spend their time here. It's not just people getting their day-to-day as their commute. So it's important that this is a nice place to be, not just a high throughput road. I spent a little bit of time messing around with this little tram turnaround, but I believe I end up just taking this away soon. Putting down just a tram to try it out. And I think that's where it sort of occurred to me that this doesn't make too much sense. For a minute here, I make a little square one because I think maybe I'll turn this into an actual tram stop where it's a path and you just walk across the tram tracks, but the tram does come around here and stop. And if you didn't want to walk down the path, it could be you would just get to this part at the bottom, and then you'd walk up to the next section. I end up changing that around because it doesn't make too much sense, because the main road, which I'd say the spine road that goes through the entire country, that has a tram track in it. But this track that I'm putting down there doesn't really connect to that track, so I have to move it around in a little bit. Here I'm just switching over to do some more of the roads for the general roads for the area. I'm just sort of spending a little bit of time just working out what roads I want. I spend a lot of time having to do this in the game. I cut some of it out, but I do spend like a good amount of time each time trying to figure out what roads look good, what roads make sense for this area. This is supposed to be like the industrial or the service area. I'm not sure, like, do I want to make it quite industrial looking, or do I want to still have it as this like nice, trees and separated bike path? And I wasn't really sure where I wanted to take the look of it. And I did end up leaving a good amount of bike paths, as you can see here, because you can, nothing wrong with having a lot of bike infrastructure. Even if people are going to take their warehouse job or work at the recycling or the factories, shipping area, which we hopefully will make in the future, still people may want to bike if they don't want to take the infrastructure, the public transport, or just drive. So this area, it does have a bit more like street parking than the other areas, but it is still going to be a place that encourages any kind of alternate transport, so keeping the bike paths in there. You can see the parts where I haven't flattened it down completely is starting to be a bit of a pain. I may need to do some work leveling that out, or you just have to do what I'm doing here and just touch every node and arrange it to the height that is needed. And hopefully I can make it not look too weird. There are some parts where it was just too hilly and I think I have to change it around, but for now, for a lot of this I can just manually move stuff around and add some walls and things to make it look okay. let's create some little guide roads here. So I've just put down one of each type so that if I'm going back and making some roads here, I can just refer to that to be like, okay, this is the hierarchy of roads. And I made it so, just the big roads connect to the main arterial avenues, and then the smaller roads only connect to the next size up, and then the smallest ones can only connect to the small ones. But again, all of these little roads here can change as I decide what actually goes there. Just doing the same for the city area, and I know I do change this around in, I think, the next episode, where I change some of these. I don't necessarily change the layout, but I just changed like what road I use. Again, just have a few main big roads coming off, but I want to reduce the amount of intersections along the main road as possible. All this is to kind of just get an idea, but the actual location of these roads will probably change as I find buildings of weird sizes and that. Here I'm just trying to figure out where I want to put this metro station, because it's just, right now it's in the middle of a field, and I was sort of struggling to think where I wanted to have this. End up just finding a road to go around the side. This is just like a pedestrianized little walkway, but I do actually need to connect it to a road, unfortunately, because the game needs that to connect, bring services and the garbage disposal to these areas. So I do need to actually have a proper road, unfortunately. But the location of this changes around as I figure out, where I want my main transport hub to be. Here I finally do get rid of that bit of rail, as I work out that having it there just by itself next to the roundabout doesn't make too much sense, because that's not an area where people are going to really necessarily be. So I'm connecting it to this roundabout so that it can then go around the roundabout and then hopefully connect to this interchanges so that it can, move around to somewhere more useful, because just having it on one end of the road and then up near the main building isn't really a particularly good use for a tram system. Here I'm just trying to figure out again a road for this one. They end up with just a 2-lane with a tram with some trees, so it's really quite nice, but still kind of low traffic, low speed. Here I believe I just put down some extra roads and just put some trash disposal, just temporarily, not really, just slapping some things down just to get to stop the buildings all complaining about no trash pickup. So just slapping some recycling and trash down. Here I'm just doing a little bit of another pedestrian walkway around to that key road. Here I've just got this another concept of like, what do I want this resort and leisure district to be. Again, this concept of maybe just having these like series of roundabouts all connected to make like sort of a roundabout of roundabouts. Having this circular look just kind of is quite nice. It's not necessarily the most practical way, but that's not the point. It's supposed to be this like cool place that you'd want to go. So I play around here. I don't really do too much with it because I haven't worked out exactly the things that I want to have here. And this will actually be the end of this episode. Like I said, I didn't film any B-roll for this one, like any cinematic shots. So guess what? This is going to fade to black, and this is going to be the end of the episode. So goodbye. Hopefully in the next few episodes, maybe not the next one because I already filmed that one, and maybe I didn't film B-roll for that one. I don't know. I haven't checked the footage. Hopefully these ones will start to get a bit better. But for now, bye. Enjoy this black screen. Thanks.